All right, getting back to some longevity and human performance. In this episode, Don Moxley, Director of Applied Science at Longevity Labs and co-creator of HRV Plus for Mode Method. We're going to be talking about HRV, heart rate variability, how it pertains to human performance, sports performance. We also go into cannabinoids and CBDA and how important that is to increase your HRV score, but just overall human performance. And we get into some other biohacking details as well. So this is going to be a great one. And if you're interested, stay tuned. How's it going? This is Brad Williams with Over 40 Fitness Hacks, the podcast where I help you, being over 40, to fight the aging process without giving up your social life. I've been a personal trainer and gym owner for over 14 years, and I specialize in helping the over 40 crowd get to their goal. If you need a little bit of guidance, check out my show notes. I have a link to schedule a free 15-minute Zoom call, and you can ask all the questions you want. But enough of that. Let's get on with the episode. Don, thanks for coming on my show. Real excited for some of the topics in your space that we're going to go through for the next few episodes. But for the first topic, I always like to introduce a guest and get to know what you've been doing in your career and human performance. And you've got some longevity stuff that you're into as well. I've been dabbling into that space myself for the last 2 years. I'm still a rookie, so I love getting experts in the field and I like to pick your brain. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, thanks, Brad. I really appreciate the opportunity. Ironically, I consider myself working in the longevity field right now, but you can't separate longevity from human performance in general. So whether it is a high school or college athlete or their parents or their grandparents, they're all humans. And there are certain stimuli, there are certain environments, there are certain things that everyone responds to. Now, certainly, intensity, mode, these kinds of things change, but the fact that we're humans, there's so much in common. So first thing is go back and see that. Now, I'm not suggesting that your grandparents should train like your college athletes, but know that there's a lot of great science that connects these all together. I came to this, ironically, that back in the late 70s, early 80s, I was a decent high school wrestler. I was good enough to walk on the team at Ohio State back in 1980. Now, back then, I had every intention of going back home to our family farm and raising beef cattle for the rest of my life. But I sat through my first ag econ class and I said, wow, that's not a very good financial decision. You know, that we didn't own the farm. We leased the land. We were in the strip pits out in the middle of Eastern Ohio. And it became obvious to me that okay, if you want to make a living in agriculture, there needs to be a different set of conditions in place for me. Simultaneously, I'd walked on the wrestling team. I was one of these wrestlers cutting a bunch of weight. My freshman year, I cut from like 230 to 177.
Wow.
Practiced a total of 15 days, injured my knee, had to have surgery on it. And that was basically that season. Came back my sophomore year, did twice as good that year, practiced 30 days, injured the other knee, had surgery on it. And I'm sitting here saying, I want to be part of this. I want to participate in this. What do I need to do? And the answer was, you've got to get stronger. And so now remember, this is 1980, 81, 82. Ohio State hired its first strength coach in 1977. Mm-hmm. And that was working with football, and we were wrestling. We were stepchildren for the most part. But it started me down a really interesting road. I had a teammate whose roommate was a shot putter. He had the third longest shot in the world at the time. And we're over at their apartment one time, and we're talking about it. I knew I had to stop cutting weight. I knew I had to get stronger. And his name was Kevin Akins. Kevin says, you want me to get stronger? I'll show you where you get stronger. And he takes me to this guy's garage on the west side of Columbus. And his name was Lou Simmons. And if you follow strength training at all, Lou Simmons is the god. I mean, he's just absolutely one of the leaders. So all of a sudden, I'm in Lou Simmons's garage with these mutants training, and I'm like, holy mackerel, we are not in Kansas anymore. This is different. And I went into it full force. Then I want to combine that. I had this wonderful convergence that took place. So I'm learning from Lou Simmons. One of my mentors at Ohio State was working out of the Cincinnati area with a group called Nautilus Midwest. And Greg Jones, Arthur Jones was his father. Arthur Jones is the guy that invented Nautilus equipment. Greg was now working as an engineer at Nautilus Midwest, and they created a product called Nautilus Leverage, which has gone on to become Hammer Strength. So we're going with my mentor, Ted Lambernides, back and forth to Cincinnati, and I'm getting this second mouthful of strength and conditioning theory. And then we throw in my junior year, I took a course as an elective. Now, remember, I'm working on a degree in animal science, but we have electives. And the great thing about Ohio State is we have both a med school and a vet school. So a lot of the coursework is co-numbered. So I could take a med school course on blood pressure or metabolics, or I could take a vet school course on hormones or things like that. And they applied. So I had a professor, his name was Dr. Robert Bartels. And Dr. Bartels was a member of the swimming team at Ohio State back in the 50s, became a coach, coached a bunch of Olympians. Ohio State had an Olympic level swimming program in the 60s around the Tokyo Olympics. So I'm in this course with this guy who's just brilliant. And he helped me create a framework to understand what I needed to do to compete. And so I pretty much changed my direction in life. I had to finish up my undergraduate degree, and I did that in about 3.5 years. But then I went ahead and did my master's work at Ohio State in exercise, and then came out and started working in the industry right away. So to bring this to today, Brad, looking at a lot of health and performance and longevity, and there's this term that we throw around called biohacking. Modifying our internal and external environment to optimize individual performance. And literally, that's what we were doing back in the early 80s. We were doing strength and conditioning. Performance nutrition had not quite come along. We were just starting to look at carbohydrate. Gatorade had moved from the University of Florida up to Quaker Oats in Chicago. So it was starting to become a sugar drink at that point.
Yeah.
That was an interesting time. And I've had a career of being in the middle of this. I've worked as a professor of the exercise sciences for about 25 of the last 35 years, which has just been a joy for me. And then we just keep moving through and watching this new development, things come along and new technology. We have new discoveries literally on a daily basis that can just be remarkable. So it's been a lot of fun being in my seat over the year, learning the new things we're learning.
Yeah. A cool title be From Farm to Freak in the Gym.
We certainly did that.
Yeah. I love hearing your story when everyone's got a different origin story, how they got into it, a different spin. And for me, it was cool because it's personal trainer, some of the same stuff that you were going in with bodybuilding and different more theories in my time. And then getting into my 40s and realizing, oh God, we're just destroying our bodies, and how I've more switched to a little bit more promoting health, wellness, longevity, but I still have that desire. Aesthetics still matter too. So I feel like I'm stuck in between two different worlds, and I'm trying to be the middleman to dabble in both. And my mission is to prove that you can, as well as having a social life. Not everything has to be harmoniously perfect diet and all that kind of stuff. So
we certainly have the challenge in that. Listen, I think fitness business, I think it's largely failed. Okay. There's an organization called the Health and Fitness Association. They used to be a thing called IRSA. They're in their 45th, 46th year. I attended IRSA at 2, 3, and 4 back in the mid 80s. And we've sold this concept that if you lift weights and if you eat this way, you'll have the body of a Hollywood superstar. It doesn't work that way. Genetics are different. And I accept the fact I have the genetics for picking up really heavy stuff. And it was my ability to maximize my strength back in the day, along with some other work that I was doing. This was a really beneficial realization to say, okay, we're different, and focus on your gift, focus on what genetics. And Brad, what's interesting about this is that the DNA that we share, that we walk around with, was either established, depending on the archaeologist that you listen to or the paleontologist, 1 million years ago or 150,000 years ago, but certainly there was an establishment of it. And since then, we've not had evolution. We've only had diversity. You only have evolution in the presence of extinction. Otherwise, we only have diversity. And it's possible for Brad Williams to have one set of genes that respond to one set of stimuli, while Don Moxley has another set of genes that responds to another stimuli. It's possible that you may be a vegan and I could be a carnivore. It's possible that you respond to cardio better than strength. The thing that we've learned, and I think what applies to your audience, is that understanding your ability to respond to things is what's so important. We call it N of one. I call it the aggregation of N of one data. And we live in a time that's really cool, Brad, with wearable technology that we're seeing expanding. I started to work for Polar, the heart rate monitor company, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were wearing heart rate monitors. Now, this before smartphone. And we're wearing heart rate monitors, and we had wrist-worn devices, advanced, and did some pretty cool stuff. But now with the advent of the smartphone and the ability to take personal data, load it onto this device, connect it to the cloud, and do good N of one studies, we now have the ability to really improve our ability to sense what's going on. It's a really cool time to be alive, not just for athletics, not just for moms and grandma. For humans, your ability to collect this N of one data. Our challenge is that up until now, our ability to interpret our wellness, illness, all this required a trip to the doctor. You had to get a blood test, you got weighed, you got your blood pressure taken, which isn't an in-depth wellness analysis. Now, with this wearable technology that we have, man, I'm telling you what, we're able to really drill in on health, wellness, and performance on a daily basis.
Yep.
And that's really cool.
Yeah. And I started doing that 6 years ago, taking my health into my own hands, pulling away from, the Western medical doctor field. And funny enough, my dad was in that field, and that's how we were ingrained in that. And ever since I started taking things into my own hand, I started fixing things one after another. That's when I was like, you got to do your own self kind of biohacking, because of that, exactly what you said. In our genome, different things will fix different things for different people, like diet and all that. Is if you're listening to your body, tracking your performance, you start figuring these things out. And like you said, the wearable technologies, I'm discovering now, this is like the first time I've ever even worn anything like this, knowing that actually how many calories I'm burning in a day is not what I'm reading off the Google calculators that I'm getting from these websites. Not only that, but the workouts I'm doing, I'm thinking I'm burning 600-700 calories. I'm burning like 150. So this is like giving you real-time information. I use that, and now I'm getting, better results. So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And we get up a whole nother level. One of the things we do know, cardiovascular affects you as an athlete,